Do you know Moncler? Moncler has become more and more famous not only in Europe but also throughout the world. It's a cool, hipster and creative brand. And the secret behind it's its genius strategy. This strategy has been discussed recently throughout the fashion industry. And this episode is a case study of how Moncler built up its brand step by step by its brand strategy. Happy New Year, everyone! Welcome to Fashion Brief. In 2021, I would still continue to provide insightful and inspirational brand content in the fashion industry. Before digging to the case study, I would like to provide some background information of the brand Moncler. The brand Moncler was founded in 1952 and was originally a French skiwear brand. It was very famous in the 70s and afterwards it suffered from sales decline. And then it was bought by multiple Italian entrepreneurs. In 2003, the company suffered again from insolvency. And at that time, Remo Ruffini, the current CEO, was also a customer from Moncler, bought the company. And also a little bit background information of Remo Ruffini, the present CEO. He was already in the fashion industry when he was young, because his father founded a fashion company called Gianfranco Ruffini Limited in the 70s in the US. The company sold plenty of hipster print t-shirts. And for Remo Ruffini himself, in 1983 he founded his own fashion label called New England and was sold in 2003. In return, he became the CEO of Moncler. So after checking the product, quality and background story of Moncler, Mr. Ruffini decided to purchase the brand. And why Moncler? Because Mr. Ruffini wanted something with heritage. And that's why it was a perfect match at that time for Moncler and Mr. Ruffini. And for Mr. Ruffini, his vision was not only focusing on skiwear, but also bringing those jackets on the street. And so it needs a lot of rework of the material because skiwear jackets are very heavy. And personally, I think Mr. Ruffini has a really good mindset of how to build up a luxury brand because he wants to have firstly 100% control of all the process of all the branding, marketing and communications so that everything can be consistent. And he also respects the brand DNA to keep them as much as possible. In 2005 to 2006, he found the Japanese designer Junka Watanabe as the first designer for Moncler jacket. He mixed a lot of recent designs from the archive in order to make this brand from sport to luxury. And why Japanese designer? Because for Mr. Ruffini it's very important to mix the culture and to communicate with different aspects of the world. And at the beginning phase, Mr. Ruffini wants to build up brand awareness. However, at that time, to build up brand awareness, there should be a lot of budget for ad placement. But for Moncler, there wasn't enough budget to create tons of different advertisements. For Mr. Ruffini, uniqueness, which is also part of the luxury mindset, is very important to him. That's why at that time, a one-of-a-kind advertisement was generated by Bruce Weber featuring different dogs wearing puffer jackets. The advertisement actually attracted consumers' attention and created a lot of discussion within the brand. Another example, in 2011, a flash mob was arranged in the Central Station of New York. And at that time, Instagram just started to thrive. And this kind of event actually created a buzz on social media since plenty of users on the social media shared videos or photos to each other and created a viral marketing. And at the same time, Mr. Ruffini has already had the mindset of entering Asia, namely China. However, at that time, Moncler for China is a new brand and it's not that famous because it's not presented. And for Mr. Ruffini, the solution is to create a really strong brand by enhancing the brand perception. And now we can see that it became a huge success in China. Although there are some dilemmas in between, for example, the anti-corruption or the trade war between China and US, there is always an increasing trend in the market of China. And Mr. Ruffini has already sensed the trend at the beginning phase of the emerging market. And lastly, in 2013, Moncler accomplished its IPO with the investment of Eurazeo. So after knowing a little bit more of Moncler, let's talk about Genius. Before the project Genius began, the brand cooperated with two designers. They are all my favorite, which were Thom Browne and Giambattista Valli. For Thom Browne, he's really famous for its out-of-the-box avant-garde design, while for Giambattista Valli, he is famous for its romantic and haute couture design. Despite the strong support of these two designers, Mr. Ruffini still wanted to change instead of following the seasons, but make something different. And for Mr. Ruffini, he always listened to different kinds of opinions from his team. And after the discussion with the team, Genius was born in 2018. Let's firstly have a look of Genius 2020. Ruffini once said, "We want to give a voice to our customer to talk with other people on the street." There are plenty of different marketing rationale behind the Genius strategy. Firstly, scarcity. As I've mentioned in the previous episode, for luxury brand, it's very important to keep everything rare. With the Genius project, there will be 8 designers launching different kinds of collections throughout the year with a limited edition. Namely, every month there will be something new to the market. And with these 8 different designers, meaning Moncler tried to target different target audience because each designer has its own design and has its own target audience. This is also what Mr. Ruffini want to do, to communicate with different target audience. And secondly, uniqueness. 8 designers, 8 different kind of collection, they are all unique. By following the guidelines of Moncler, the designers can do anything they want to renovate the Maya jacket. And which leads to the third element, content. For Mr. Ruffini, content is very important in the social media era. Instead of creating seasonal collection, with this Genius project, consumers can always have different content to talk about on social media, meaning there will be a buzz every month. And that's another quote by List. Genius diffusion lines drop monthly and were responsible for the brand's biggest spikes in both social engagement and search volume. With these elements, namely scarcity, uniqueness, and also great content, it becomes a success. While just 10% of Moncler's sales come from Genius project, the strategy introduced the brand to a younger demographic. And now, 40% of the customers are from Generation Z or Millennials. In addition, 50% of Genius customers are first-time purchasers, while 40% have also purchased other products of Moncler. For me personally, I think Mr. Ruffini is really a fulfiller. As he said in an interview, visuals without execution is hallucination. It's already the 3rd generation of Genius project, and as a successful entrepreneur, Mr. Ruffini wouldn't stop the transformation of Moncler. Especially under the pandemic, the crisis accelerates everything. He mentioned that it's very important to keep the value and also make the company as global as possible. and the data analysis is the key of success for digital marketing. It's an opportunity for change, and it's very important for Moncler to listen to every customer's opinion. In an era of change, being flexible is very important for Mr. Ruffini in terms of logistics and also communications. In an interview, he was asked how he could fight against the worst situation caused by the pandemic. For him, it's very important to keep the brick-and-mortar experience by combining the digital data to create an omni-channel experience. For him, it's a long-term planning strategy for transformation because he thinks that the situation won't be alleviated in 3 to 4 years. The consumer behavior will be changed due to the pandemic. And for Genius project, there's also a shift, and it's called Genius 2.0. As Mr. Ruffini said, we need to update our software. Namely, the concept of the Genius project wouldn't be changed, but some adjustments needs to be made in terms of format, timing, or designers. In terms of timing, the launch of Genius project has been moved from February to September, which is closer to the season of Moncler in winter. For format, since Mr. Ruffini still put emphasis on physical experience, he transformed the Genius building into a studio, namely broadcasting these physical experience to the digital world, and which is the concept I mentioned with the omni-channel experience. And for the launch place, he decided to move the fashion show to China because for him it's very important to follow the energy and to communicate to the customer from city to city. And he thinks that it is the closest way to communicate with his customers. And last but not least, the designer mix. He tends to choose designers not only in the fashion industry, but also in other industries. And so during this hard time, Mr. Ruffini did this kind of transformation to optimize the Genius strategy. For Mr. Ruffini, his management style is to collaborate with different teams, not only for global, but also local. He thinks that the local support is very important because the local team is the closest one to the consumers. Due to the pandemic, many people hold a pessimistic opinion towards sales in 2021. However, Mr. Ruffini is still confident about the sales in the future because he thinks that after the lockdown, people still need to travel and wants to spend more time outside. And that's why there shouldn't be a slump of Moncler's jacket. So as the Genius project of Moncler deemed as a successful example until now in the fashion industry, you might wonder whether there will be some competitors to learn from this kind of strategy. However, is it really that easy to mimic? Take Tod's Tea Factory project as an instance. For me, the project is a failure because it doesn't match the brand's DNA. For many people, Tod's is famous for its loafer shoes, and it is presented in a more classic and traditional way. However, when you see from the Tea Factory project of Tod's, for me, it's a clash between traditional approach and the creative ideas. Now it is already the third generation of Tea Factory project. The brand cooperated already with 3 designers with 3 different styles. However, by observing these 3 collaborations with 3 different designers, I think they are inconsistent. I'm not sure whether what kind of guidelines did Todd provide these designers, but I think these limited collections lose the signature of Todd's shoes and also make consumers confused whether these products are from Todd's or not. For instance, by observing the current collaboration with the young Japanese designer Mame Kurogouchi, I have to say the product is very beautiful, but it's very hard to differentiate whether they are from Tod's or not. I think Tod's hasn't pondered over thoroughly whether this kind of strategy is suitable for Tod's itself, because the brand itself is still implementing a relatively traditional approach. For instance, while I was browsing Tod's official website, it's very confusing for me while seeing classic Tod's product with super modern sneakers. There is also another project for Tod's called No Code. By collaborating with Korean designer, for me the project seems cool. However, upon seeing the project, it's really hard to differentiate whether it's from Tod's. and I think it's more similar to another brand called Hogan. And in comparison to Moncler, the success lies in not only the match of its DNA, namely, Moncler has already collaborated with two designers, Tom Brown and also Giambattista Valli. These two designs, I would say, are avant-garde and modern, and which is a bridge to the Genius project. But also Moncler focused only on one product, that is its classic Maya jacket. So when we see from another example of German footwear brand Birkenstock, the imitation of the strategy becomes more successful than Tod's, because it focused on its classic footwear products, namely Arizona and Boston shoes. No matter the cooperation with Rick Owens and Valentino, the collection brings up the discussion between consumers and also the sales of the brand. The Genius strategy brought great success for Moncler, and rumor has it that there is a discussion between Mr. Ruffini and the French luxury conglomerate Kering about merger and acquisition in 2019. Normally, there are plenty of benefits of M&A for small brands to luxury conglomerate. For example, the economical benefits including the real estate and also the bargaining of cheaper advertising fees. However, Mr. Ruffini stated that he still wants to take in charge of the brand in 3 to 4 years. And recently, Moncler bought another brand called Stone Island with 1.15 billion euros, and it's its first acquisition. According to an interview with Mr. Ruffini, he still wants to keep both brands' DNA separately because they have different branding strategies. However, for Stone Island, it's still new in the Asia and also the USA. But for him, it's more important to leverage the experience from Moncler for Stone Island to reach out to new customers quickly. For him, it's only about fine-tuning the brand Stone Island, but not make drastic change, because he thinks that the branding strategy of Stone Island is already really good. So let me have a quick summary of this case study. Moncler's key to success can be divided into multiple points. Firstly, he respects the brand's heritage, and also he is fully aware of the brand's DNA for possible expansions. And in terms of luxury marketing, he focused on uniqueness and also scarcity, which creates the desire of consumers to understand. And last but not least, continuous improvement and also adaptations are the keys of success during pandemic era. So that's it for today. Hopefully you like my case study, and I would definitely encourage you guys to take a look at the official website of Moncler. It's filled with different informations about Genius, and also the contents are amazingly interesting. Also, let me know in the comment which Genius collection is your favorite one. Last but not least, most important thing ever, like this video and subscribe my channel, and see you soon.